परिभुज्य यक्षणाद अजरामरत्वमुपयान्ति साधवा.
Say that he is the favorite and he could come very close to winning the Grand Slam like he did years back. So,
please mute to us. Welcome, Mr. Ananta, sir. He is from Delhi, Austria's Sanskrit Samsthan from Delhi, professor. He will be giving the expert comment later, madam.
Thank you.
Sir, you unmute பண்ணிக்கணும் Ananta sir.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now you can able to hear, Leah?
Yeah, very much.
Thank you.
Dayanidhi said he will be joining late. Dayanidhi is our HOD. He will be joining later. So, now, welcome address by me. In this multifaceted masterpiece of Kavyam, Paduka Sahasram, Swami Desikan has celebrated the glories of two Padakas, that is sandals, adoring and supporting the lotus feet of Lord of Srirangam. This highly revered Kavyam has 1008 verses, housed in 32 chapters, Patadis. It is said that Swami Desikan composed all of these 1008 verses in one yamam of a night. That is what we call as jamam. And in response to a challenge set by a devotee of the temple. Sri Ranganatha Paduka Sahasram is one of the most magnificent literary, philosophical, and theological composition of Swami Desikan. The other kavyams such as Sankalpa Suryodayam, that's a drama, Yadava Abhyodayam, Hamsa Sandesam, and Subhashita Nivi, their unique merits. For instance, Sankalpa Suryodayam is an allegorical play where the cardinal doctrines of Sri Vaishnava philosophies are covered. The Hamsa Sandesam modeled very much after Mega Sandesam of the immortal bard Kalidasa. The literary and poetic talents as well as his knowledge of the Indian subcontinent of Swami Desikan come to the fore. In his Kavyam on life and history of Sri Krishna, Yadava Kula Tilakam, known as Yadava Abhyodayam, Swami celebrated the Sriyan of Yadukulam. The Subhashita Nivi is a didactic lyric containing the wise and pithy statement similar to the ones found in Niti Sadaka of poet Bhadragiri. The uniqueness of Paduka Sahasram is that it is an integrated essence of the literacy, poetic, and philosophical and theological, and the last but not the least, the bhakti of Swami Desikan at its full bloom. After offering his praise for the sacredness of the dust created by the Paduka in the 13 Patadis, Swami Desikan drifts. We are going to discuss, Madam is going to dwell upon 14th. Swami Desikan shifts his attention to the holy and more enjoyable nadam created by the Padukas, where they move from place to place with the Lord. Like dust, he made up of many specks. Nadam produced by the Padukas has many roots, many notes and moods. Swami Desikan composed 100 verses in this Patadi to celebrate the uniqueness of the holy Nadam evoked by Padukas and housed them in Nada Patadi. He will be focusing on it. Mr. Raghavan sir, Advocate Raghavan, please mute. And this is the longest of the Padadis of Sri Ranga Ranganatha Perumal Paduka Sahasram. This evening, we are happy to have Dr. Malathy Krishnan from Mumbai with us, who is going to talk on the Voice of Paduka, focusing on the 14th Padadis, namely Nada Padadis, the philosophical message couched with literary aesthetics. I am sure she will bring out the salient points in the concept of rasa and dvani and the poetry of the great Acharya. She is a graduate in Sanskrit and philosophy and a PhD in English. She's really a multifaceted personality. She is retired from the Institute of English and Foreign Language, Hyderabad. Currently, she is pursuing the Gita Amritam of Bhagavad Gita under the stewardship of Velukudi Sri Ranganatha Swamigal. Now I request her to commence her speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parthasarathi.
Yes.
Namaskaram to everyone. I would like to thank the Department of Vaishnavism and the Alumni Association of the Department of Vaishnavism, Madras University, Dr. Parthasarathi in particular, for giving me this unique opportunity of sharing my anubhavam with the Nada Paddhati of the Paduka Sahasram. At this moment, I recall something that I heard from Sri Velukudi Krishnan Swami heard. He said there was a person, a bhakta, who kept going to the temple every day, offering worship, very devout, and said, what is the phalam for all this? And God said that unna inga varavachade dhaan palan. Inda matla vera engiyum pohama inga varavachade dhaan palan. In the same vein, I've been reciting, chanting the one chapter of the Paduka Sahasram every day for the past 2-3 years. And the phalam for that seems to be the Paduka telling me to study it even more deeply with greater research. I start now, the voice of the Paduka. Shriman Venkatanatharya Kavitarkika Kesari Vedantacharya Yumi Sannidhattam Sadahradi. Before I start on the actual topic for today, the voice of the Paduka, I will refer to 2 shlokas which are outside the Paduka Sahasram. I'll explain why later. Avir Bhavat Nibrita Baranam Purastat Akunchitaika Charanam Nibritanya Padam Dadna Nimanta Mukarena Nibadda Talam Nathasya Nanda Bhavane Navanita Natyam. This verse from the Gopala Vimshati of Vedanta Desika best illustrates the concept of Dwani in poetry. The dynamic image of Balakrishna dancing for butter to the rhythm of Yashoda's churning of the curd, with one leg jingling with ornaments in front and moving about, the other firmly resting on the ground, conveys several layers of meaning, both explicit and implicit, culminating in that final phrase, Navanita Natyam, a sheer delight to the senses. Dwani in Sanskrit poetics is described as that element in poetry that goes beyond embellishments, literary embellishments, rhyme, rhythm, alliteration, meters, etc., at the Shabda level, and denotation, connotation, figures of speech, etc., at the Artha level. These are all literary devices, but the total aesthetic effect, the emotional delight that an artistic expression evokes in a discerning reader or spectator in drama is the soul of poetry. I would like to add another from Kalidasa's Abhignana Shakuntalam. Griva Bhangabhiramam Muhuranupatati Shandane Baddha Drishtihi Paschadena Pravishtaha Sharapadar Patanabayat Yujase Purvakayam Garbaihi Ardava Lidaihi Shrama Vivritha Mukha Branshibihi Kirnavartma Pashyodagraplutatvad Viyati Bahutara Sokam Urvyayam Prayati. Now, this is the picture of the scene where Dushyanta is chasing the deer. The deer looks back gracefully, bending his neck at Dushyanta's Ratha. At the same moment, in fear of the descending arrow, pushes us back into the forepart of his body, strewing the track with half-chewed grass from his open mouth, and bounds loftily, moving much more through the air and skimming the ground lightly. The flight instinct of the deer is communicated palpably, simultaneously evoking an aesthetic appeal, involving both the image of the fleeing deer as well as the conglomerate of birds, the Shabda Samuha. This is the high point of great poetry. It is difficult to say which aspect of Vedanta Desika's work is most fascinating: the rasadhvani of his poetry, the philosophical profundity, or his effusive bhakti. We have already touched upon dhvani as central to the poetic quality. Vedanta Desika employs a variety of alankaras that serve to enhance the artha effect and alliteration, assonance, rhythm, and varying meters to add to the nadam. At the risk of stating the obvious to such an erudite audience, I would like to encapsulate the Vishishtadvaita philosophy. It posits the three tattvas of Chit, Achit, and Ishvara, with Narayana being the supreme power, holding within his Sharira all Chit and Achit. The world is real, not a Maya. Jivatma can at the highest level be like Paramatma, but not be equal in all respects. Paramatma and Jivatma are in the Seshi-Sesha relationship. The Godhead is manifest as 5 forms: Paravasudeva in Vaikuntham, Vyuha Rupam in Shirabdi as Vasudeva.
Not directing speaker.
1 minute, madam. What's your problem? Are you not able to hear here?
No, sir. If they are on the mobile app, they have to click the join audio so that it will allow via Wi-Fi or cellular data. Many of them will see the picture but will not hear the audio unless they click and join. Thank you.
Please do it, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, madam. Go ahead.
The Godhead is manifest in 5 forms as Paravasudeva in Vaikuntham, Vyuha Rupa as Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, controlling and monitoring creation, maintenance, and destruction. Vibhava as in the avatars for the protection of people, for Dharma Samstapanam. Antaryami in the hearts of the Jivatmas, and Archa to be worshipped here in the physical world. It is the Archa Rupam of Sri Ranganatha that is eulogized in the Paduka Sahasram, and the Nada Paddhati in particular. Brahman in the Visishtadvaita philosophy is Saguna Brahman too. The Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya holds Bhakti and Prapatti as the paths to attain moksha from samsara. All the 4,000 verses of the Divya Prabandham, and more particularly Nammalvar's Thiruvaimozhi, emphasize this aspect. Unwavering faith and total surrender lead to eternal bliss. The upayam for this are the 3 mantras, the Ashtakshara, the Dvayam, and the Charama Shloka. Sarvadharman Parityajna Mamekam Charanam Praja. We find all these concepts intricately intertwined in the Paduka Sahasram, his poetic magnum opus. It is impossible to comment on or even comprehend the several levels of literary quality, philosophy, and bhakti of this versatile Acharya. Today's talk is a humble attempt at exploring the Nada Paddhati of the Paduka Sahasram within the threefold framework of aesthetic quality, philosophic concepts, and Bhakti Bhava. As the comments proceed, I hope to convey the total effect of these three elements. I'm indebted to three sources that have informed this talk. A, the Sanskrit commentary by Srinivasa, published originally in 1911 by Mumbai's Nirnaya Sagara Yantralaya Prakashan and republished by Chaukamba Sanskrit Sansthan in 1984. B, the online resource at shadagopan.org, which gives a meaning as in Dr. V.N. Vedanta Desikan's commentary published by LIFCO, Uttamur Swami's Anubhavam, Srimad Andavan's Anubhavam, and Sri Shadagopan's own special comments. C, the exhaustive notes by Dr. N.R. Soumyanarayana Desikan's release for the 750th Avatara Mahotsavam of Sri Vedanta Desika. I have chosen this Paddhati as it is almost the central one, the 14th Paddhati of the Paduka Sahasram, which has 32 Paddhatis in all. It has the largest number of verses, 100, a tenth of the length of the entire work, and it is here that the Paduka really talks. It is the last Paddhati of the Purva Bhaga. The first three chapters the first three chapters are called the Upodghata Petika. They talk about the general Prabhavam. The second Paddhati is dedicated to the second Paddhati of the first the first section of three is dedicated to Sri Shadagopa Nammalvar, who is considered to be the avatar of the Paduka. 4 to 8 Paddhatis form the Ramayana Sangraham with a focus on Rama's Paduka. 9 to 14 form the Upachara Paddhati, and it is Nada Paddhati comes last in this. 15 to 20 form the Paduka Varnanam, 29 to 30 Paduka Mahimai, and the last two Halashruti. The Nada Paddhati presents the voice of the Paduka in the several roles that she assumes. I will be taking these up in a rough order. The poet speaks to the Paduka in the second person, you, Tvam, Te, Tava, addressing her as Ranganatha Mani Paduke. The other frequent references to Ranganatha are Madhuvairi, Madhuripu, Madhusudana, Murabhi, and in one verse Achyuta, in another Narakamardana, and yet another Mukunda. The Paduka is equated with the Vedas, sometimes held even superior to the Vedas. The Paduka is Nammalvar, and her voice is the Tiruvaimozhi at one level. This is the focus of Srimad Andavan's Anubhavam. The Paduka Nadam is referred to repeatedly as Manju Nada, Manjusvana, Manjushinjitam, Manipranada, Ninada, or their equivalent, where Manju has a sense of pleasing, sweet, etc. The Paduka Nadam is the first sound, even before the conch, to announce the Paduka Nadam is the first sound, even before the conch, to announce that Sri Ranganatha has taken his first few steps of his Sancharam, with the primary Onam, signaling the welfare of the world. It is the morning Nandi to wake up the sleeping Jivans, enmeshed in the beginningless night of Prakriti Maya to eternal daylight. Anadi Maya Rajani Vashena Praswapa Bhajam Pratipodanartam Pashyami Nityodita Vasarasya Prabhata Nandi Iva Paduketvam. That's a very beautifully enunciated shloka. The Nadam seems to be the echo of the Lord's Panchajanya, and as the first sound, it sets in motion the other 18 Mangala Vadyams that accompany the procession of Sri Ranganatha. Srinivasa describes this as following: the Paduka sounds the Vijayi Bhava Gosha. The very first verse of the Paddhati describes the Nadam as produced by the particles of dust, parag, produced and falling from the Vedas, rubbing against each other, competing to praise the Lord and the Paduka. Right through we hear the presence of the Vedas or Shabda, the chief pramanam in Visishtadvaita philosophy. There is an interesting utpreksha or conjecture that the Vedas introduce themselves to Ranganatha one by one with the conventional Abhivadi. I am Rik, I am Yajus, I am Sama, etc. And the Paduka Nadam, produced by the Garbharatna, the gemstones in the toe holes, pronounces the Ashirvachanam as the response. We see these dialogues very frequently in many of the verses. Here is a beautiful verse describing the Vedas and Upanishads as the golden ornaments for Shriyapati's feet, Nupuram, and the Paduka Nadam as the jewel box, Manjushika, protecting the Lord's feet. Manjira Shinjita Vikalpita Manjunada, Manjushikeva Bhavati Nigamanta Vacham. This resonates with the last two lines of a shloka in Hayagriva Stotram. Manju Pranadam Maninupuram Te Manjushikam Veda Giram Pratimaha. The next verse extends this beautifully, saying that the Paduka Nadam reveals the secrets of the Vedas, praising the glories of the Lord to those close to him. She becomes a revealer of secrets. This is a direct allusion to the Thiruvaimozhi, the Tamil Vedam, which presents the Vedas to those listening to it. Adding a musical lilt to another shloka, the Paduka is praised by the Vedas, the Samaganam in her praise. The Paduka Nadam adds the Tanam to the Swaras of the Samaganam. Amredita Shruti Ganaihi Ninadai Maninam Amnaya Vedyam Anubhavam Abankuram Te Udgasyatam Niyatam Ichasi Samaganam Tana Pradhanam Iva Shauri Padavanitvam. Yogis rub the Paduka Nadam against the touchstone of their hearts to evaluate it against the Vedic texts and find it superior to them. The Vedas give up, saying that the Param is indescribable. Anidam, Anevam, not this, not like this, Athato, Adesha, Neti, Neti, not this, not this. The Paduka takes up the challenge and positively asserts, Idam, Ittam, it is this, it is like this. This is his Mangala Vigraha Swarupa. These are his Aneka Kalyana Gunas. And Sri Ramanuja lists them in his Sharanagati Gadya. I will mention that particular string. Akhila Heya Pratyanika Kalyanaikatana Svetara Samasta Vastu Lakshanananta Jnanananda Swabhimatanu Rupaika Rupa Chintya Divya Adbhuta Nitya Niravadya Niratishaya Aujvalya Saundarya Saugandhya Saukumarya Lavanya Yauvanadi Ananta Guna Nidhi Divya Rupa Swavavikana Vadika Tishaya Jnana Bala Aishwarya Virya Shakti Tejas Saushilya Vatsalya Ardva Arjva Sauhardra Samya Karunya Madhurya Gambiryo Audharya Chaturya Stairya Dhairya Shaurya Parakrama Satyakama Satyasankalpa Krititva Kritagnyata Asankeya Kalyana Guna Ganaudya Maharnava. I mention all of this because we find all these Kalyana Gunas mentioned across the 100 verses of the Paddhati. and we do not have time to dwell upon them in detail. In verse 22, we hear the Paduka swearing at the feet of the Lord that he is the only supreme power. With all the varying methodologies of the Vedas, such as Shakti, Lakshana, Gauni, Rudi, etc., merging at Ranganatha's feet. There is a beautiful stanza directly mentioning Nammalvar. Bakuladhara Tanuswam Sahitam Yamapashya Shruti Parishadi Tasyaha Saurabham Yojayanti Haricharana Saroja Sammoditaya Pratipada Ramaniyaha Paduke Deninadaha. The Paduka took the form of Nammalvar, Bakuladhara, Tanu, and her Nadam as she travels with the Lord merges the fragrance, Saurabham of the Dramidopanishad, Tiruvaimozhi, with that of the Vedas at the Lord's feet. The Paduka becomes a Vyakhyatri. The Paduka Nadam is equivalent to the Pranava Nadam, symbolizes the Pranava in the hearts of yogis meditating on her as a culmination of their Ashtanga Yoga to attain Paramapurusham. Residing in the Hridaya Kamalam as Antaryami, in Vaikuntham as Paravasudeva, and under the Ranga Vimanam in Srirangam as Ranganatha Archarupam. Paduka Nadam is a Samaganam accompanying the souls on their way to Sri Vaikuntham, the Archiradri Marga. The Paduka sings with flawless, effortless ease, Aham Annada, Aham Annadoham Annada, expressing the ecstasy of having reached the Lord's feet and enjoying Brahmanandam. This ecstasy is expressed by Nammalvar at the end of the Tiruvaimozhi as he attains union with the Lord. Shundagandru shunduyarndu mudivil perum vaaleyo, shundadanil peripara nanchudar jodiyo, shundadanil periya sudar gnana vinbameyo, shundadanil periya ennavara shundaye. Paduka Nadam is equivalent to the Pranavanadam. It is a Samaganam. The ecstasy is expressed in Nammalvar's, many of Nammalvar's verses. Continuing with the thread of Dwani, I present two beautiful examples. Visishtadvaita and Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya hold Narayana as a supreme power. The Paduka says, Aham upari samasta devatanam upari mamaisha tvam. The devas place their heads below my feet. I am above them. Vasudeva's feet are on me. Vasudeva is above me. There is nothing above him. He is the supreme. The meter is Pushpitagra with equal number of syllables in alternate padams, with a specific arrangement of short and long sounds. The Alankara is Sara Alankara, where the superiority of items is placed in a hierarchy. As in Kavyeshu Natakam Ramyam, Tatra Ramya Shakuntala, Tatrapi Chaturto Anka, Tatra Shlokas Chatushtayam. I will follow this up with a beautiful compound simile, a comparison with the Brahmari or the female bee's drone. Yogis concentrate all their thoughts on the Hridaya Kamalam, where the Lord lies as Seshasai, Anor Aniyasim, smaller than the smallest particle. And the Paduka Nadam points to the effulgence above and says, this is it. A Vedic pronouncement like the bee's drone. To extend the comparison, the bee is on the Kamala with its dorsal side shining with a Neela Kanti resulting from recent flurry. I look at it slightly differently. The Paduka indicates the supreme reality, the effulgence above in the Hridaya Kamalam of yogis, Like the bee sits the Neelakanti on its back and points to the nectar in the Bijakosham of the Kamalam. Let us now share some lighter moments. Time for Hasya Rasa. The two Padukas on the left and right feet of Ranganatha quarrel. The gemstones rub against one another and have a kalaha. The reason, who is superior of the two at the time of Trivikrama Avatara. The right foot had two chances and the left foot only one. So the right foot claimed superiority over the left. In the next verse, the two Devis are in Pranaya Kopam, love anger, with the Lord as he leaves them and goes away. Or perhaps they have a quarrel between one another. The Paduka calms them on his return, saying, the Lord is returning. In a subsequent loaded verse, there is another quarrel between the left and the right Padukas relating to who is superior of the two. The Dakshina, right foot, claims superiority as it stands for Dakshinyam or the Aneka Kalyana Gunas like Vatsalyam, Saulabhyam, Saushilyam, and the Vamapadam on the basis of the Lord's left toenail being the spring of Amritam. The Paduka assumes various roles in the service of Ranganatha. One interestingly described role is that of a teacher, a guru, a purohita. In the Sattvic season of autumn, when Ranganatha sets out on his Jaitra Yatra to quell the Danavas, wearing the Paduka, the sweet Vedic chants from her gems attract many Rajahamsas, sages, from the Manasarovar in the Himalayas to come down to the Kaveri for the be instructed on the Vedanta, that is the Tiruvaimozhi. The rays of the Lord's nails fall on the Paduka like a white uttariya and make her look like an acharya instructing and disciplining the Rajahamsas. A very, very beautiful image. The Paduka Nadam also helps the poet in regulating the flow of his poetry. All these are the Paduka as a teacher, determining the beginning and end of the Paddatis, counting the number of verses as it were, having made him in the beginning promise that he would compose 1,000 verses in praise of her in the open assembly. The poet displays the Kartritva Tyaga Bhava, leaving even the poetic flow to the dictates of the Paduka. The Paduka corrects the poet's line saying, not this way, this way. The Paduka Nadam corrects the Swara, Varna, Akshara, Matra of the Vedic chanters when they slip into error in their enchantment with the Lord and his Paduka. The Paduka Nadam seems to mock the poet for his childish promise to write a 1,000 verses, not knowing that the Paduka's limitless qualities cannot be contained in a finite number of shlokas, and adds the multiple effect with her own Nadam. The Paduka Nadam even teaches the Lord's consorts, Padmas and Bhumi's anklets, how to jingle. When suddenly Ranganatha, having his servants, leaving his servants, enters the Antapuram, the Nadam seems to be an instruction to the Devis on the secrets of lovemaking, Madanopanishad. As an aside, I would like to present a beautiful verse about the time when Ranganatha goes to the Kaveri bank. The Paduka Nadam seems to announce to the Kaveri that her son-in-law is coming. Mahalakshmi had filled the Padukas with gemstones she received from Samudra Raja, her father, and Kaveri, her mother, as dowry, Yautuka, so that this announcement could be made. Prayena Sahya Duhitur Nadaraja Kanyam Jamatur Agamana Suchana Ihamana Manju Pranada Shubagaihi Manipaduke Tvam Antaryutam Krita Yautaka Ratna Kandaihi. The Paduka is also a bewitching enticer. The Paduka Nadam captivates the young women of the city, winning them away from the arrows of Manmatha as they throng the streets to look at the eternally young Ranganatha. The city damsels, desirous of seeing Ranganatha in his chariot, are enticed by the Paduka's mantra goshan and leave all other Vishayanubhavams behind. The Paduka Nadam is like a Shabaragitam, the hunter's song to trap the animals, stupefying the people, numbing their interest in other sensory pleasures and directing them towards Ranganatha. Parya Kulendra Mrigagrahanaya Pumsam Sammohanam Shabaragitam Iva Pratimaha. Krishna, the Divya Gopa's Venu Nadam, enticed the Gopikas to defy their elders and throng the banks of the Yamuna. Paduka Nadam bewitches likewise. The rattle of the gemstones in the Paduka buys the hearts of the people. The sound is a stream of nectar. It's a kind of a virodha basa. Kalatkara Vyaja Akshara Amrita Dhara the Manaya. The poet says that he confidently continues with his poetry without having to fear the critics, as everyone is in the grip of the Paduka Nadam's enchantment. The Paduka Nadam is also Abhaya Pradam. When Ranganatha sets out on his Sancharam, the Paduka assures the assembled people, Ma Bhishta, don't fear. The Nadam sounds like the Arishta Mantram to assuage the fears of the people. The people beseech Ranganatha to protect them. The Paduka utters Om as an assurance that it will be so. The Nadam is also a mantram to drive away the enemies, both physical as well as mental, Kama Krodadi. The Paduka has attained the highest place, the Lord's lotus feet. Brahma and other devatas are seated in their Padmasanas, appointed by her in their respective positions. The Paduka seems to be in conversation with the Vedas. Or is she saying, do not fear? The poet wonders. There are several shlokas describing the painful last moments of human life and how the Paduka Nadam helps in mitigating the fear of death. Datum Arhasi Devi Swadu Karna Rasana Rasayanam. This poet speaks to the Paduka. In my Charamakalam, when my ears are diseased, you should give me sweet medicine, Rasayanam, through my ears, Karna Rasana, where the ears take on the function of the tongue. When in my last moments I am exhausted with effort, you should comfort me like a cool breeze, even before the Lord arrives. When the good people of Srirangam on the banks of the Kaveri cry for protection in their last moments, your sweet sound should comfort them through their ears with kindness. And he adds, like a mother in a subsequent verse, Anukampaya Mateva Manju Ninada Manipaduke Tvam. Stanzas 86 to 90 in a series all talk of how only the Paduka Nadam can offer succor to the Jivans in the throes of death, and pleads with the Paduka to rush to the side of the dying with her Abhaya Shabdam. Trika Vinihita Hastam Chintayitva Kritantam Gatavati Hridi Moham Gachatam Jivitena Parikalayatu Bodham Paduke Shinjitam Te Twarayitum Sajjam Twat Videyam. When Yama's hand is on my neck and I'm in the grip of Marana Bhayam. Nadam achieves its total communicative effect only when it is interspersed with avasanam or silence. There are several verses where the Paduka speaks through silence. The Vedic chants accompany Ranganatha on his Sancharam along with the Garbhamani Prasuraihi from the Paduka. When the Lord's movement stops, the Nadam also stops, indicating that the high point of Nadopasana has been reached and the Lord can be seen clearly. When yogis meditate on the Param, there is a Nadam within them. When the Nadam stops, the Lord manifests himself to them. Bhagavat Swarupa Prakasha is achieved. The idea is expressed in a subsequent verse. Antashchareshu pavaneshu jiteshu avabhigya pratyangmukhi parinamaya manaha pravrittim asvadayanti sarasam manipada rakshe nadavasana samaye bhavati ninadam. Yogis, having controlled the breath within them and the activities of the mind, chitta vritti nirodha, delight in the Lord's feet and the Paduka when their internal state is quietened. The Paduka adopts the Mauna Mudra when at the end of the Sancharam, the Lord reaches the Paryankam couch to rest in order to allow him to listen to the Samaganam sung by his son Brahma lying on his Nabhi Kamalam. After the Lord reaches the Bhujanga Talpa, the serpent couch for his Bhogashayanam, the Paduka is silent, perhaps deliberating upon the steps to be taken for the welfare of the world. Vishwasya bhuktim adhikritya viharahina vacham yama kimapi chintayativa karyam. This is the poet's guess. Whenever he wonders about something, he uses the word kimapi. When the Lord, who is always awake, Nitya Prabodha, retires for his yoga nidra, the Paduka becomes silent to let him sleep uninterruptedly and lies patiently aside. Maunena hanta bhavati mukhari karoti. She speaks through her silence. In the next verse, the voices of the bhaktas are heard. During the Utsavam times, when the sportive dancing walk of Ranganatha stops in the Mani Mandapam, the Paduka Nadam also stops. It is then that the Vijaya Gosham of the bhaktas begins. Maunena hanta bhavati mukari karoti is repeated here and echoes with the Mauna Bruho Mukarayanti Gunaswadiya in the Godastuti. There are also times when the Nadam is a low sound. When Sri Ranganatha arises and sets his foot on the Paduka, the sound is almost inaudible. That is the para stage. As he takes the next 3 steps, the volume gradually increases. The poet points to the production of sound in the human body. It starts at the navel, barely audible, para, then moves to the heart region, pashyanti, then to the vocal cords, madhyama, and finally to the mouth as vaikari when it is fully audible. In another verse, the Paduka slows down the pace of the Lord and gets softer so that the Lord can hear the cries of those who seek his protection. There is a distinction between those who cry loudly because of intense suffering, which may be temporary, and those who constantly suffer. Their cries are low. So the Lord has to listen to those whose cries are low. And hence the Paduka becomes silent. The Paduka is the Antaranga Sakhi of Ranganatha. After receiving the worship of the Devas in the Sabha, Lord Ranganatha appoints them in their various positions of duty and enters his Shayagraham with only the Paduka, desirous of listening to her Nadam until he reaches his couch. Sometimes the Lord allows for a limited audience with people, with an audience such as Narada. The Lord moves about dancing with light steps, and even Narada restrains the Veena to be able to listen to the Padakas Manju Shinjitam. In a supreme tribute to the Kanchana Paduka, the poet says that the free-willed, discriminating Ranganatha stops listening to all the other Veda recitations, Vaidika, Laukika, Yoga, Anayo, Nivarya, and gives her exclusive audience. In a very beautiful verse, the poet alludes to the Gopikas, the beloved of Krishna, in the Vibhavavatara. Although in Srirangam, the Lord holds the Paduka in equal affection as he did the Gopikas in the Dwapara Yuga. The Paduka is the Gopika at Ranganatha's feet in Srirangam. Nityam padambura ruha yoriha gopikam tvam gopijada priyatamo manipada rakshe sampanna gosha vibhavam gatibihi nijabihi prityaiva natyajati ranga samashritapi. We can now turn to the central concept of Visishtadvaita Siddhanta and Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, the concept of Sharanagati. Verses 81 to 85 distill the essence of the spirit of Sharanagati. As the Supreme Acharya, the Paduka during Sancharam offers Hitopadesha to the Bhaktas. By her own example, she says, just as she adorns the Lord's feet and is his constant companion, all Bhaktas can attain the status of Paramasamyam if they seek refuge in his feet with total devotion. In the next verse, the Paduka Nadam proclaims the Paratvam of Sriman Narayana and Bhakti Prapatti as a path to reach him to people confused by conflicting philosophies. Ayam iti taistai kalpita nadbhabedam pratipadam avalokya praninam yakulanam chatula manikalapaihi shauripada varitvam mukharayasi viharaihi mukti ganta pathagram. Verse 83 presents a beautiful picture with water as the focal point. Padma Kamalam Udaram Kamalam, the lotus, is associated with water, symbolic of Udaram, generosity, Sarva Bhishta Pradam, granting all wishes. Human beings are often distracted away from the life-giving source to Mrigatrishnikas, mirages. The perennial source of water is the Lord's Padakamalam. The Paduka tells this to those who are drifting away as she points to the Lord's feet. Often people in ignorance of the Shastra Vidhi, Sakriditi Vidhi Siddham, seek Sharanagati repeatedly. The Paduka reminds them of this and says, Alam, Alam, enough, enough. I think I hear the Paduka saying Alam, Alam to me. So I will stop here with the last verse, verse 100, where the poet says that he understands that the Paduka is pleading with Ranganatha not to delay the Bhakta Samrakshanam. The Paduka as Acharya, like Sri Mahalakshmi, mediates and speaks on behalf of the Arthatranarthis. The Lord's delay is because he is waiting for the Bhaktas to initiate the effort to move towards him. Kshipati Manipada Rakshe Nadai Munam Samashrittatrani Rankeshwarasya Bhavati Raksha Peksha Pratikshana Vilambam. Kavitat Simhaya Kalyana Gunashalini Srimate Venkatesaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much, madam.
Thank you.
It was a beautiful lecture. We are very much blessed. Now I request Dr. Ananta of Delhi to say a few words as expert comments.
Can you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir. Yes, very
Yes,
much.
sir. Yes, sir.
You can start.
Yes.
Yes. Vishuddha Vijnana Ganaswarupam Vijnana Vishrana Baddha Diksham Dayanidhim Dehabhritam Saranyam Devam Hayagriva Maham Prapadye Devam Hayagriva Maham Prapadye Namaskaram and good evening to one and all. Before going to not to say, to share, I would like to convey sincere thanks as well as beautiful short and sweet lecture by Dr. Malathy Krishnan, taking that particular paddhati that's called Nada Paddhati. What I learned and what I observed, not observe means just what listening, really it should be, there are so many nyayas in Sanskrit shastras. There is one nyaya called Upakrama and Upasamhara nyaya. Upakrama means that word itself says very clearly beginning, and Upasamhara is end, beginning to end. Antam solravadam, andadila solramadi. So, Madam Dr. Malathy Krishnan started saying two verses, not from Paduka, and taken from, one is from Gopalam Shruti and another is from one of the important, very famous Nataka of Kalidasa, that's called Shakuntalam. Very fine verse, already she has mentioned that also, quoted also. Kavyeshu Natakam Ramyam Tatra api Shakuntalam Tatra api Chaturte Anke Tatra Sloka Chatushtayam. Like that. And before going to give clear picture about this Paddhati, Madam mentioned about Dhwani also. Being a student of Vyakarana as well as Sahitya, and afterwards a little bit with Vedanta, I always enjoy reading the text of that is Abhinava, that is Dhwanyaloka of Anandavardhana. We are aware of all of you. One of the beautiful and a classic text in Sanskrit literature. Because Madam was telling about Dhwani also. Really has challenged the other views of Sahitya Alankara people about the Shistatalam Sullitu. He has gone extent and said Dhwani he should accept. Like that. Because he started in the text that Dhwanyaloka consists of 4 Udyotas. There he gives more preference to Shabda Pramana. Madam also mentioned about Shabda Pramana. Sadhvani Suribhi Katitaha. There is a saying by Anandavardhana in Dhwanyaloka. Sadhvanihi Suribhi Katitaha. Suribhi means Vidwamsaha as well as Vaiyakaranas. So Dhwani is the most important. He starts the text with Kavyasyatma Dhwaniriti Budai Yasamamnata Purvaha. That's the first line. And he completes with that sloka in last line where we have to make some what's called a attempt. Kavyasyatma Dhwaniriti Yasamamnata Purvaha Tasya Bhavam Jagadu Apare Bhaktamahustamanye Kechidvacham Stitamashe Tattamutu Tena Prubas Sagardayamana Pritaye Tatswarupam. He starts this text with this first sloka and last line. Tena Brumaha Sagardayamana Pritaye Tatswarupam. Sagardayamade Managate Kavaravadarkaha Sayapatta or Nool. And what means Dhwani? Because as mentioned by Dr. Malathy Krishnan, 2 texts, just like another text also we have to go through in Sanskrit literature. Kaviraj Vishwanatha Sahitya Darpana is one of the excellent texts. Consists of Dasavatar, Dasa Parichedangal. The last Paricheda discuss clearly about various types of Alankaras, Shabda Alankara and Artha Alankaras. And the Alankarangale Porme, Ritiye Porme, Ellati Marigadandu, Anandavardhan, Dhwani Visheta, excellent Panirkar, proof Panirkar, that should be accepted. In such a way, Prakataman Saramaha. The Nada Paddhati, as we're all aware, in our Sanskrit literature as well as Sotras, Chatushloki Elark Deri Alavandar. Like that here, after this Paddhati, the one of as mentioned by Dr. Madam, about 3 A, B, C, Madi. Just I tried with having 3 commentaries. One is in Telugu and one is English by Dr. great famous scholar Dr. Narasimhacharya, and one is that is Andavan Swami. Another is K. Raghavacharya Telugu commentary, published by Agoval Matam, Hyderabad in 5 volumes. We have in Telugu. I have taken 3 commentaries just to go through like that. Andamadri, the Nada Paddhati, they have given Shatashloki. There is a saying, we're all aware of that. சதஸ்லோகேன பண்டிதஹான்னு சொல்ற வழக்கம். சதுஸ்லோகேன பண்டிதஹா சதஸ்லோகேன பண்டிதஹான்னு சொல்ற வழக்கம். அந்த சதஸ்லோக் என்ன சொல்ற வழக்கம்னா, தோஸ் டேஸ்ல the first ஆதிகாவியா ஸ்ரீமத் ராமாயணத்துடைய முதல் சர்க்கம் வரக்கூடிய அந்த 100 ஸ்லோகங்களை சொல்ற வழக்கம், சங்கேப ராமாயணத்தை. அந்த 100 ஸ்லோகத்துல if you நல்லா படிச்சோம்னா you can able to understand lot of things. அந்த மாதிரி இந்த பத்ததி madam started slowly has gone in depth, focusing on all the things Vedanta philosophy, as we have 3 tattvas. Madam mentioned 3 commentaries and 3 publishers. I mean, yeah, 1911 first Paduka and 1984 வந்திருக்கா. அப்புறம் வந்து அந்த சடகோப ஆர்கனைசேஷன், அப்புறம் சொல்லவே வேணாம் சுவாமி பிராத்தஸ்மரணி சொல்லக்கூடிய அபினவ தேசிகன் சொல்ல உத்தமர் சுவாமி and all. And first of all, what Nada says, நாத பத்ததி எல்லாத்துக்குமே வந்து நம்ம சம்பிரதாயத்திலும் as well as in literature there is a saying by Mallinatha, commentator of all works of that is Kalidasa. கவிரா இந்த கோலாச்சல மல்லிநாதஸ்வரி சொல்ற வழக்கம், நாமூலம் லிக்கத்தே கிஞ்சித்து நானபேட்சிதம் அக்ஷதே அப்படின்னு ப்ராமிஸ். என்னன்னா, மூலத்தில்லாத விஷயத்த சொல்றது கிடையாது, மூலத்துக்கு சம்பந்தப்படாத விஷயம் சொல்றது இல்லை, பிரதிஜை பண்ணிருக்கான் அவன். such a great person மல்லிநாதன், எல்லாரும் தெரியும், பஞ்சமகா காவியங்களுக்கு பண்ணிருக்க எல்லாத்தையும் பண்ணியிருக்கான். அண்ட் ஹியர் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆல் ஃபார்ட் ஆஃப் நாத பத்ததி, அந்த நாதம்ன்ற வேர்டு ஹவு சப்த பிரம்ம சொன்னோம், தட்ஸ் மோஸ்ட் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் ஆஃப் வையாக்கம்னாஸ். ஏன்னா if you refer the text பர்தஹரியனுடைய அந்த வாக்கிய பதியம், சப்த காண்டம், வாக்கிய காண்டம், பத காண்டம் 3 பிரிச்சிருக்கா. அந்த சப்த காண்டத்துல முதல்ல சொல்ற ரகம் அநாதி நிதனம் பிரம்ம சப்த தத்துவம் யதக்ஷரம் விவர்த்ததே அர்த்தபாவேன பிரக்ரியா ஜகதோ யதஹ. This is the first karika of the பிரம்ம காண்ட of the வாக்கிய பதியம். அங்க நாதம் சொன்னா சப்தம்னா சப்த பிரம்மம். அந்த மாதிரி நீங்க நாத பத்தியத்துல வாட் இஸ் மீன்ஸ் பை நாத அப்படின்னா, நகார பிராணமித்யாஹு நகாரம் அனலம் விதுஹு ஜாதம் பிராணாக்னி சம்யோகாத் நாதமித்யபிதீயதே. தட்ஸ் தி நாதா மீன்ஸ். நகார பிராணமித்யாஹு. ஏன்னா according to grammarians, once the word comes from out of mouth, அதுக்கு முன்ன வந்து பரா பஷ்யந்தி மத்தியமா வைகரின்னு சொல்ற வழக்கம். 4 ஸ்டேஜ் தாண்டி the word comes. அப்புறம் தான் it goes முன். அப்புறம் தான் வந்து காளிதாசனுடைய முதல் காவியத்துல வந்து வாகர்த்தா சம்பிருக்தோ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தியே ஜெகத பிதரோ வந்தேன்னு சொன்ன ஸ்லோகம் சொல்றோம். சப்தமும் பிரம்மமும் கோஸ், சப்தமும் அர்த்தம் கோஸ் ஆல்வேஸ் டுகெதர். அந்த மாதிரி நகார பிராணமித்யாஹு தகாரம் அனலம் விதுஹு ஜாதம் பிராணாக்னி சம்யோகாத் நாதமித்யபிதீயதே. அதுன்றதுல அந்த பேஸ் பண்ணி தான் அப்படின்னு அந்த தெலுங்கு கமெண்டரேட்டர் அழகா எடுத்து கொடுத்திருக்காரு. சோ ஈச் அண்ட் எவ்ரி பத்ததிக்கும் மின் பத்ததி பராக பத்ததி, அதோட தொடர்ச்சி. எப்படி சிவாஷ்யாதி கிரந்தங்கள்ல வந்து ஒரு அதிகரணத்துக்கு முன்ன அதிகரண சங்கதி, பாத சங்கதி, அத்தியாய சங்கத்தில் அப்படி சொல்றோமோ, அந்த மாதிரி இந்த பத்ததி ஆல்சோ கனெக்டட் வித் த ப்ரீவியஸ் பத்ததி அண்ட் ஸ்டார்ட்ஸ். அந்த மாதிரி அழகா வரக்கூடிய, ஜஸ்ட் ஃபார் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன், ஜஸ்ட் ஃபார் த டுடே we are in the 29th of January 29/1/23. So ஒருவ வந்து again 3 slokas where madam was explained from beginning to end, taken all the aspects and beautifully discussed and as well as presented also very nicely and interesting also. அதே சமயத்தில் பார்த்தோம்னா சுவாமி தேசிகனுடைய ஸ்ரீசுக்திகள்ல really beyond imagination. In the beginning, Dr. Parsadi was also mentioning about other texts also of Swami Deshika. இந்த ஒரு டெக்ஸ்டுக்கும் it got an importance and as well as an important message. We have mentioned about what we called Yadavabhidam also and this Kavya also. ஏன்னா காவியம் யசசே அர்த்தகதே விவகார விதேன்னு Sanskrit literature we have so many things are there, so many textbooks are there. Each and every text gives a beautiful message. அந்த மாதிரி சுவாமி தேசிகனுடைய ஸ்ரீசுக்திகள்ல today because comes from 23rd. We are in the year of 23rd. I mean 23 இல்லையா? அந்த 23rd ஸ்லோகம் பாருங்க, பியூட்டிஃபுல்லா அந்த ஆம்னாய. there are so many verses. ஏன்னா இன்னொரு another important aspect just comes to my mind. சுவாமி தேசிகனுடைய ஸ்தோத்திர பாடங்கள்ல ஒரு ஸ்தோத்திர பாடத்துடைய காமாசி அஷ்டத்துல ஆரம்பிக்கச்சே சுத்தீனா அமுத்தர அம்பாகம்னு ஆரம்பிக்கிறார். அதே மாதிரிதான் எங்கேயும் ஆரம்பிக்கிற இந்த பத்தத்திலையும் இல்லையா? சுத்தீனா பூஷணானாம் தே சங்கே ரங்கேந்திர பாதுகே மிதா சங்கர்ஷ சஞ்சாதம் ரதக்கமிபி சிஞ்சிதம். இந்த சிஞ்சிதம் இந்த வேர்டு நம்பர் ஆஃப் டைம்ஸ் வந்து மேல வர ஸ்லோகஸ்லாம் வருது. Shrutinam bhushananam te. Shruti artat amnaya Vedaha. There are so many words are there for Shruti. அதே தான் அந்த 23rd ஸ்லோகம் ஆரம்பிக்கிறார். அதனால just for information அந்த 23rd ஸ்லோகா அந்த 23rd ஸ்லோகா எடுத்து பாருங்க. ஆம்னாயஸ்த்வாமனிதர பரைஹி ஸ்தோதுமப்யுக்ததானாம் மத்யே பக்த்யா மது விஜயனஹ பாதுகே மோகபாஜாம். 14-23 சிக்ஷா தத்வஸ்கலித வஜசாம் சிக்ஷயஸ்வேவ பும்சாம் மாத்ராதீனி ஸ்வயமனுபதம் மஞ்சுபஸ்வைர்நிநாதை. அழகான ஸ்லோகம் அந்த 23வது ஸ்லோகம். தட்ஸ் a year just for information. ஆம்னாயஸ்த்வாமனிதர பரைஹி ஸ்தோதும்ப்யுக்ததானாம் மத்யே பக்த்யா. அந்த பக்தி என்ற இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் பக்தி மேடம் ஆல்சோ ரெஃபரிங் அபவுட் பக்தி அண்ட் பிரபத்தி. சேம் சரணாகதி ஆல்சோ மேடம் மென்ஷன். அதே சரணாகதி 32வது ஸ்லோகத்துல அக்கார்டிங் டு விசிஷ்டாத்வைத philosophy we give equal importance to both agamas vaikansa and pancaratra. Twam pancaratra ஆரம்பிக்கிற ஸ்லோகம் 32nd ஸ்லோகம் because the 32 பத்ததிஸ் are there, 32 அதிகாராஸ் are there. 32 அதாவது இந்த அனுஷ்டுப்ல 32 தானே, 8-32 இல்லையா? அந்த மாதிரி இந்த ஸ்லோகம் ஆரம்பிக்கிச்சு பூஷணானம் சுத்தினான ஆரம்பிக்கிறார். சோ அங்க மாதிரி சுத்தி மாதிரி இங்க சுத்திக்கு மேல இது முடியும். ஏன்னா what சுத்தி means, what is the லட்சணம் for சுத்தி is நிரபேக்ஷரவஹா சுத்தி. அதுக்கு மேல எந்த கொஸ்டின் கிடையாது. நிரபேக்ஷரவஹா சுத்தி மீமாசகானுடைய வியூ விவாசக பிரமாண சொத்து சுதிலிங்க வாக்கிய பிரகட ஸ்தான சவாக்கிய பேதன ஷட்னு ஷட் பிரமாணம் ஒத்துக்கூடிய ஆவாள். அதுல பாதி நம்ம ஒத்துருக்கோம் பிரத்யக்ஷ அனுமானன் சப்தா. அதே மாதிரி இதுல எதுவா இருந்தாலும் ஏகசம்பந்தி ஞானம் அபரசம்பந்தி ஸ்மாரகம் ஸ்மிருதின்னு சொல்ற வழக்கம். ஏகசம்பந்தி ஞானம் அபரசம்பந்தி ஸ்மாரகம். சோ இந்த காமாசி ஆஷ்டம் சேவிக்கிச்சு அந்த ஸ்தோத்திரத்தை அனுபவிக்கச்சு அங்க ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வேர்டும் இந்த நாத பத்தத்தினுடைய ஆரம்பிக்கிற ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வேர்டும் சேமா இருக்கு பாருங்க. சுத்தினாம் சுத்தினாம் ஹையஸ்ட் லெவல்ல. So our system has built up on 4, just like 4 பாதங்கள், 4 யுகங்கள், 4 புருஷார்த்த காமங்கள், 4 இல்லையா? அந்த மாதிரி 4 சுத்தி என்ன, ஸ்மிருதி என்ன, இத்திஹாசம் என்ன, புராணம் என்ன, இதுவேளை கொண்டுதான் இந்த சிஸ்டம் வெல் எஸ்டாப்ளிஷ் பண்ணிருக்காங்க. நமக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் we are all aware very very clearly. So அத மனசுல வச்சுதான் சுவாமி தேசிகன் அந்த 23rd ஸ்லோகால ஆம்னாயஸ்துவாம் that also mentioned தவ தே அப்படிலாம் மணிபாதிகே இதெல்லாம். அப்போ ஆல் தீஸ் திங்ஸ் சுவாமி தேசிகன் இந்த ஸ்தோத்திரத்தை பண்ற சமயத்துல எவ்வளவு நடத்தம் அவதாரம் அவதாரண வேர்டு அவன்ற ப்ரொபோசிஷன் எல்லாரும் தெரியும். மேலேந்து கீழே இறங்கி வருதான். தட் ஆல்சோ மதுரைன்னு சமாபேத் சொல்ற இதுல the speaker was telling about last ஸ்லோகத்துல எந்த விதமான தாமதப்படுத்தாமல் என்ன ஒரு சௌலபியமான விஷயம். Because if you go through the text of Gita Bhashya, the beginning, the great Ramanuja gives a beautiful introduction. Shriyapatihin ஆரம்பிச்சு பக்தி யோகம் அவதாரியாமாச is there. இது கீதா பாஷ்யத்தினுடைய தொடக்கத்துல பகவத் பாஷ்யக்காரர் முன்னுரையில ஸ்ரீயப்பத்தின் ஆரம்பிச்சு நிறைய லைன் வரும். அதுல எம்பெருமானுக்கு அசங்கேயமான கல்யாண குணங்கள் எல்லாம் வரிசையா வருது. that also has included by the speaker also there. சோ அந்த மாதிரி எந்த ஸ்லோகம் எடுத்தாலும் என்ன விஷயம் எடுத்தாலும் இங்க ஆம்னாயஸ்துவாம் அனிதரபரை ஸ்தோத்தும் குடிநிஷ்ட குடாபிதானம் ஸ்தோத்திரம் குடிகுடினோஹோ. Yes, we have the relation between this ஜீவாத்மா பரமாத்மா, அதாவது சேஷசேஷி பாவம் 9 விதமான சம்பந்தங்கள்ல இந்த சேஷசேஷ பாவத்தை வசத்தியானால்தான் சிவாஷத்துக்கு we are all aware சாரீரிக விவாம்சா பாஷ்யம் we are saying. சோ எல்லாத்துக்கும் மூல காரணம் நதியினாம் சாகரோகதிஹி. எப்படி எல்லா நதிகளும் கடைசியில போய் கடல்ல சேருதுன்னு தெரியுமோ அந்த மாதிரி இதுல 23வது ஸ்லோகத்துல அப்புறம் என்ன அர்த்தம்? ஸ்காலித்யே சாசிதாரம் ஸ்வபரஹித பரம் தேசிகம் பூஷுரீப்சேத். This is the last line of the ஞாச வம்சதி of Swami Desika. அது முக்கியமா அந்த ஞாச தசகம் என்ன, ஞாச திலக்கம் என்ன, ஞாச வம்சதி என்ன, 10, 22, 32 அங்கேயும் 32 ஒரு ஸ்லோகம் வந்து பல ஸ்ருதியா இருக்கும். அதுவும் ஆல்சோ டேக்கன். அப்படியேப்பட்ட அந்த ஞாச சப்தம் தான் இஸ் அபர பரியா, that is பரியா சிரடிம்ஸ் ஆஃப் த பிரபத்தி. ஞாச வித்யா 32 பிரம்ம வித்யகள், பிரம்ம வித்யகள் 32, பாதுகையில பத்ததி 32, ஸ்ரீமத் சாரத்திலேயே 32 அதிகாரங்கள். வாட் எல்ஸ் வி வாண்ட்? அந்த மாதிரி இதுல இங்க வரைச்ச நாதம், அந்த நாதம் கேட்டதுனாலேயே எப்படி சொல்ற வழக்கம் உண்டு. ஒரு இடத்துல வேதபாரம் நடக்கிறது, நம்ம ஜஸ்ட் 7 o'clock உதவ சாந்திட்டு போடுதா நம்ம 7:10 ரீச் வாசல்ல போய் வண்டி நிறுத்துறோம். அப்பதான் just we are hearing the word Hari Om. So we are safe because இப்பதான் ஆரம்பிக்கிறேன். That nada says, conveys. It means about to start உதக சாந்தி பாராயணம். சரி, ரொம்ப லேட் ஆயிடுத்து, பியாண்ட் லேட்டா போயிட்டு சீக்கிரம் முடிச்சுட்டா ஹரி ஓம் சொல்லிச்சுக்கோ, அடாடாடா முடிச்சவனே வந்திருக்கமே, will say go and say sorry. So that nada indicates the beginning and as well as உபக்கிரம உபசம்ஹாரா. அந்த மாதிரி இதுல இந்த 23வது ஸ்லோகத்துல ஸ்கலிதம் ஸ்கலனம்னா தவறு. we all make mistakes. சுவாமி தேசிகன் அந்த சித்தம் சத் சம்பிரதாயம் சொல்ற கம்பீரமான ஸ்லோகத்தை ஞாபகம் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்லோகத்துல லாஸ்ட் லைன்ல ஸ்காலித்யே சாசிதாரம் ஸ்வபரஹிதபரம் தேசிகம் புஷ்ட்ரியேத். அத்தனை தேசிக சப்தா ஆச்சாரிய பரியா நது தேசிகா சாட்சாத் வேதாந்த தேசிகா இது சர்வம் முயம் ஜானிமா, நமக்கு எல்லாம் தெரியும். அந்த மாதிரி இங்க சிக்ஷா தத்துவ ஸ்கலிதவச்சசாம் சிக்ஷே ஸ்வேமும்சாம் அந்த மதுக்கரன்ற மாதிரி இப்படி அந்த நாடகத்துல சொல்லிச்ச மேடம் ஸ்பீக்கர் வாஸ் மென்ஷனிங் அபவுட் பியூட்டிஃபுல் ஆஃப் தட் மதுகரஹா துரேபஹா ஷட்பதஹா, these are the words for the brahmara. துரேபின்னு சொன்னாங்க பாருங்க. So the entire இந்த பத்தத்தில we have lot of information in all aspects. சாகித்யபரமாவும் விஷயங்கள் இருக்குது, வேதாந்தபரமா இருக்குது. இன்னும் சொல்ல போனா அந்த ஜீவன் எம்பெருமான இடத்துல எப்படி சொல்லக்கூடிய விஷயத்தை எப்படி கொண்டு போய் கன்வே பண்றது இருக்குது. அதாவது குத்து விளக்கரை கொட்டுக்கால் 10 மேல் சொல்லிச்சு அந்த 5 விதமான குணங்கள் இருக்கணும் அந்த கட்டலுக்குன்னு சொல்ற சமயத்துல. அந்த மாதிரி ரீதியில 5 விதமான ஸ்டேஜஸ் ஆஃப் பரமாத்மன் that also included by as well as very clearly explained by the speaker. பரவ்யோபி அந்தர்யாம அர்ச்சாவதாரம் சொல்லுங்க. அதனால அந்த எம்பெருமான் தொடங்கியாச்சுன்னா கிளம்பியாச்சுன்னா அந்த நாதமானது அந்த எப்படி சொல்ற வழக்கம் உண்டு, தேவநாயக பஞ்சாசத் ஆஃப் வேதாந்தேஷிகா அங்கே எடுத்து பாருங்க. அந்த 2 விதமான திருவடிகள்ல சொல்றவங்க கிட்ட சேவிச்சு போனா ஒரு திருவடி ஒரு இன்ச்சு லிட்டில் பிட் முன்ன இருக்க, என்னன்னா தயாரா இருக்கான்னு சொல்ற வழக்கம். அப்படியே ஆச்சரியம் அனுபவிச்சுக்க சுவாமி தேசிகன். Same way here also in this particularly in this paddhati and date is 29 liya, adana just I was going referring the 29 sloka. ante murtim samayitasta agre saranya vatato murare samopavannaha sunumayitam bhavatyah sitani padavani sinjitani, one more sinjitani. That's what just I was just initially submitted. sinjitani inge sinjitani varudhu paruங்க. ante anteva murtim samayishastasya agre saranya patato murare agre agnenaye supataraye. ஒரு தடவை இந்த பிரம்மச்சாரிகள்லாம் இந்த சமிதாதனம் பண்ணி முடிச்சா இதுக்கப்புறம் சொல்லக்கூடிய மந்திரத்துல அந்த அக்னி பகவான பிரத்யட்சமாச்சுண்டு. அந்த மாதிரி இதுல இந்த நாத பத்தத்துல முதல்ல இருந்து ஆரம்பிச்சு எடுக்கச்சேவே அழகான இதுல சுத்தினாம் அந்த சுத்தி தான் அந்த சாமவேதமா இருக்கக்கூடியது. ரிக்வேதம் என்ன, எதிர்வேதம் என்ன, சாமவேதம் என்ன எல்லாம் சேர்ந்ததுதானே அந்த அத்தியாச்சரியமான ஆழ்வாருடைய ஸ்ரீசுக்திகள்ல வரைச்சு. அந்த சடகோபசுன்னு சொல்லக்கூடிய நம்ம ஆழ்வாருடைய ஸ்ரீசுக்தியா கூடிய அந்த கங்கை தத்துவஷ்டயத்துல 3ஆவதா இருக்கக்கூடிய பூர்த்தியா இருக்கக்கூடிய பகவத் விஷயம் சொல்லக்கூடிய அந்த ஆழ்வாருடைய அனுபவம் எல்லாமே சமகானத்தோட ஈக்குவலா இருக்குன்னு தட் ஆல்சோ மென்ஷன் பை இந்த திரவிடோபசாராவளி சொல்ல மேடம். அந்த மாதிரி இந்த ஒரு பத்தத்திலையும் நிதானமா 10 ஸ்லோகம் எடுத்துட்டு 10 × 10 100 கரெக்டா சதஸ்லோகி. அதனால இந்த தெலுங்கு கமெண்டர் சொல்லச்சே 100 சதஸ்லோகி இருக்கிற மாதிரி 100 சதஸ்லோகி இந்த சதஸ்லோகி. Here we have a lot of information saying about the greatness of the Acharya. At the same time அந்த எம்பெருமான் அவனுக்கு இருக்கக்கூடிய குணங்கள் அதெல்லாம் சேர்ந்து எதிராக தெரியுதுன்னா அந்த பாதுகையில தெரியுது. அப்படியேப்பட்ட இந்த நாத பத்தத்தில இந்த 23வது ஸ்லோகம் என்ன, 29வது ஸ்லோகம் என்ன அப்படி ஜஸ்ட் பாத்தீங்க. மதுத்விஷா that's a 30 second 32 பத்ததிகள் இல்லையா, just 14-32 மதுத்விஷஸ்வைர விஹாரஹேது ரஞ்சுஸ்வனான் சிக்ஷயசி இவ மாதः பர்யந்தபாஜோ மணிபாதரக்ஷே பதாத்பரண்யோ வரணி புராணி. ஒரு ஸ்லோகத்தையும் அனுபவிச்சு சேவிச்சவன்னா எதான புதுசான என்ன அர்த்தம், அதான் அர்த்தம் எல்லாத்துக்கும் அலங்காரம் என்ன மேடம் வாஸ் டெல்லிங். அதனால்தான் ஜஸ்ட் இந்த பிகினிங் ஐ மென்ஷன் அபவுட் another text of கவிராஜ் விஸ்வநாதா that is right தர்ப்பணம். ஒரு பரிச்சேதத்திலும் the text consists of 10 பரிச்சேதாஸ். அலங்காரம் தெரியணுமா தெரிஞ்சுக்கோங்க, அந்த நாய்க்கு சுபாவம் தெரிஞ்சுக்கணுமா தெரிஞ்சுக்கலாம், நாயக்கருடைய சுபாவம் தெரிஞ்சுக்கலாம், எத்தனை விதம் நாயக்கன் ஆல் திங். அதனால்தான் அந்த டெக்ஸ்ட் இஸ் ஒன் ஆஃப் தி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் டெக்ஸ்ட் இன் சான்ஸ்கிரிட் லிட்டரேச்சர் கவிராஜ் விஸ்வநாத் சாகித்ய தர்ப்பணம். அதுக்கு மேல போற டெக்ஸ்ட்ல இருந்தா what will called Dunyalakam enna, adukku irukkudiya lochanam sollu vyakyanam enna. So Swami Deshkinuடைய ஸ்ருதிகள உத்பிரேக்ஷ அலங்காராசம் வரும், அதே சமயத்துல ஆச்சரியமான வேதாந்தம் வரும். சுப்ரீமா இருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த நதனர்த்தம் சாதாரண லே பர்சனுக்கு புரியுற இடத்துல இன்னும் கைகுப்பினால போறோம் இல்லையா? அந்த மாதிரி இதுல இந்த நாத பத்தத்துல beginning to end வரைக்கும் the speaker was giving beautiful what we call explanation connected to the philosophical also. So it really is interested and as well as informative. அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கக்கூடிய இந்த நாத பத்தத்துல just I have said very few words. Thank you very much for giving opportunity and to listen to the good lecture also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for a very nice explanation. Now I request Mr. Varadarajan to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm Varadarajan. And the first thanks, as usual, goes to Lord Ranga. And the topic itself is about Ranga Brahmam. And as the speaker said, right at the beginning, the Dr. Malathy Krishnan said, what is this blessing for us? The most important thing for all of us is that he brought us here. That itself is the blessing. And hence, she gave the Palastuti right at the beginning, before her speech. So thank you very much for that. And the speaker, as I was personally, was also addressing her just before the meeting. Today, there are two important things in the world that is required for any education to go up, especially philosophical education. One is the language. English is a beautiful soft skill where if you have the command over English, your reach is much better. Today, Westerners are learning a lot of scriptures, a lot of philosophy and all that. So our own people, our own acharyas, in the past, somehow they thought this is Mlecha Bhasha and not required, but today it is not so. So we are extremely happy to host you as a professor of English who also got an insight into philosophy, Sanskrit, Tamil, and could deliver meticulously a delivery about this topic. So thank you very much. And we request you, since it says formerly professor, please continue your contribution teaching English even to scholars so that their scholarly thing can come out and reach worldwide. This is our appeal to you. And then thank you very much, Professor Ananta, in his inimitable style, as usual, delivered the expert comments, which added to the whole evening. And then our thanks to our head of the department, Dr. Dayanidhi, who enables the Alumni Association to function with great fervor, and our young secretary, always as usual, Dr. T.K. Patsadi, who meticulously plans every meeting, and the committee members who distribute the invitation and ensure participation, and the members who come. See, the whole thing is like we invite professors mostly, we invite traditional scholars, most of them are on time. And today the speaker was the first login member. When I logged in as an admin, I was a little ashamed because I come in at 5:40 for a 6 o'clock meeting and she was already there testing around. So this department, this Alumni Association has a great thing, like we always start on time. I think it gets passed on to a secretary who starts thinking about the next month meeting as soon as this is over. So that has been our tradition. So thank you one and all for making this evening possible, and we all stay with Lord Ranga's Namberumal's blessing today. Thank you very much. And with the secretary's permission, we officially shall close the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.